Okay, we're going to do a walkthrough on the setup for the midterm project. I'm going to go ahead and launch AutoCAD and we're going to choose new, and this is using the AutoCAD template. We're going to verify units are decimal, which is good. And we're going to create a layer. The first one I want to create for this one is going to be image. Okay. Go ahead and set it current. And I'm going to make sure that it does not print. Okay. And let's go ahead and set another one because we are going to do a north arrow too. We'll call it ano dash. We'll call it north. Okay. And we are going to get out of that. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and find in File Explorer whatever site that you were assigned. Okay, and you're going to click on it and drag it into the drawing. We're going to specify 0 tab 0. Okay, keep it 0 rotation. Okay, so now we've got the site in here, and the way it's oriented in this case, north is going to be in the up and down direction, so we got to put a arrow in for that. Okay, you'll notice it's not at the right scale. So these are two things we're going to do. We're going to rotate it, and we're also going to scale it up. But before we do that, before we rotate it, we want to make sure that we put our north arrow in. Easiest way to do that will be to use Design Center. Okay, so that's DC. And Design Center, if we look at the file path, just in case yours gets lost, it's under Program Files, Autodesk. I think the lab computers have AutoCAD 2026, mine's 2025. And it's going to be Sample. And the one we're looking for is Dynamic Block. Okay, and you can see a whole host of these. You can explore these later. And we're going to choose Annotation Empirical. And you can either select block here or block here. It's the same thing. It's going to load our blocks. The one we want to use is this one here. We will use the graphic scale later. So you're going to, what you're going to do is you're going to highlight this by clicking with your left key, and then you're going to drag and drop it. Somewhere in that range will be fine. So I click it, drag it, and then let it go. Okay. And so now it is showing the direction of north. Okay, so in this scenario, when you're looking at your image, it's north. The next thing I want to do is rotate. So I'm going to rotate this drawing, RO. I'm going to select everything in the drawing. Base point I'm going to use as 0 tab 0. And I'm going to use by reference. Type in R. And what we want to do is we want to rotate it so this building is both vertical and horizontal. Okay, so we're going to pick a side of the building. Okay, and we're going to click it, and we're going to define that angle that we want to be vertical as best we can. And then we're going to rotate it so that it is completely up and down. And the best way to do that is go ahead and put on ortho and click, and now everything is oriented properly. And even though up and down is oriented, we still preserve the location of north. North is in this direction. Okay, so now we want to scale up the drawing. Okay, and what we're going to use here is we're going to use these parking spaces to get it. Again, this is a rough idea of how we're going to do it. And so I'm going to do scale. I'm going to select everything. And I'm going to still use my base point as 0 tab 0. And then the factor, we're not going to do factor, we're going to do by reference. And I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to pick the base here to the base here. And I'm going to choose the length to be 20 feet. I'm going to zoom back out. And now we are both scaled and rotated fairly properly. Okay. Also make sure you put this north arrow on its proper layer. Okay, not the image layer. Okay. And then we are going to draw the site. Okay. And again, we're taking these as essentially both lines and arcs. So let's see how we would draw these various elements. So of course I would have to get into a proper layer. Okay, I'm also going to fade this out a little bit, make it a little easier. Okay, and now I'm going to use my polyline command, PL. And as you note, I'm going to take note that these look to be pretty square with the building. They might not be exact because I might not have done a perfect job of rotating it, but I'm going to assume that everything is squared up properly. So let's look how we would put it in our property line. So I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to line up my crosshairs best I can. I'm going to click. I'm also going to go ahead and keep on ortho because it looks like this should be straight across. Now it might be perfect. I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to go straight down and click here. Again, I'm using the polyline, and you'll notice that it kind of runs out. It stops here because this is probably the start of an arc. I'm going to just find about where it is, hit there. I'm going to take off my ortho, and I'm going to switch to arc. And it's going to go. Sometimes when you do it, if you do it the other direction, your arc might be down below here. Not a big deal. You just use the grips and put it back later. So in this case, I picked the right direction. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to go back to L line. And then I'm going to also go back to turning on my ortho. And I am just going to, I'm going to perpendicular. Okay, and I'm going to trim that out. Okay, again, oops, undo. TR. I'm going to get off this, and I'm just going to select this. All right, so now I've got my property line in my drawing. And again, I've got to take on my grips. I'm going to pull this in so it matches up to there. If you were to draw it the other direction, if you would have gone clockwise, your arc might have ended up like way out here or even way out here. Just keep going. Come back when you're done. Click on it and put it where you see the best fit for this. Okay, that's pretty good. All right, so now we put it in the proper end. It's a closed polyline. Okay, so when you go to your properties for this closed polyline, okay, I can click on it, and you'll notice that I can get the area. So here it is. That's located right in my properties at 73,612 square feet. And we're not gonna get it down into decimals there. So that's also how you would put in the decimals. All right, so then when we're laying in our parking lot area, I'm going to still use polylines. I'm going to try to, keep them as straight as possible. So maybe I'll do this, PL. I'm going to also put these in by the width of the parking spaces. So when I draw a line in, okay, I'm going to draw it by increments of 9 feet, okay, because these are all going to be 9 feet. So, you do get out your calculator. And so I'm going to start here. This looks like a good start point. It's about here. And I'm going to line up my crosshairs. And I'm going to click. And let's count them off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's call this one 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 14, so 14 times 9, it should be 126. So I'm going to do in increments of 9, so it looks pretty close. That's looks to be about 135, and it's like, no, that looks like to be a little more. So I'll do another 9. That's 144. That'll put me there. So I do 144. And then I'm going to draw it up. Oops, you know what? Let's undo that. I want to keep my ortho on. So again, I do 144. My length. Then I'm going to go up a distance of 20 because that's the width of a parking spot. And then I'm going to go over. I'm just going to go over to about here. I'm going to make it, when I draw it here, I'm going to make it look like, well, it's not going to be 47.2. I'm going to put in 48. Oh, undo that. 48. There we go. And then I'm going to draw it down, and I'm going to make that one, we'll do the 46, and I'll come across, and I'll just end it here. So then you'll look and say, well, it's not quite matching up, and that is fine. And so what we're going to end up doing is we're going to put some fillets in here. So I'll do fillet, and I'll do a radius, and this looks like about a radius of 5. And that looks good. This one's a little more, so I'm going to do a fillet radius. Let's try 15. Maybe it's 10. So fillet radius 10. Just trying to make it, yeah. And then here, this looks like a much larger radius. This is probably closer to 30, so I'm going to do fillet radius 30. Again, I'm sticking with round numbers, and that looks really good. Okay, and that's how we're going to do our outline. And then when we put it in our striping, it would be a line, say end here, and I would go up a distance of 20. And to get my striping in, I just do offsets of 9. Again, they're not going to match up perfectly with the illustration, okay? And that's fine. I keep going with this all the way across. And then there's going to be a gap here. That's going to be our landscape island. It looks like it juts out, so we're going to put that in there as well. And finish. And this would be on a separate layer as well. This would be my striping. All right. Same thing for the building. You're going to, draw it in like a rectangle. Put it in a different layer and put that in. This walkway is probably a 4-foot walkway. 4 or 5. 6 foot. So that's a 6-foot walkway. All right, so when we're putting these things in. So those are the different elements you're going to do. This is part of the building too. This is like the overhang. So that would be, this would not be part of the building area, but it would still be a structure. Okay, so we'd put that in as well. And when you're looking at these things, again, we're just doing the parking edge. Okay, so again, when we're measuring these things, you're going to round them to even increments. So they're 24 feet. Okay, is what you're putting in. All right. All right, the last thing I want to put in is our title block. All right, so let's go to our layout. And what we want to do here is we want to right click on here, and we want to grab a 24 by 36, okay, title block. So we're going to go from template, click on that. And what you're doing is you'll see this is the file path for me, okay, templates, and we're going to go to sheet sets, and we're going to choose civil imperial, and we're going to hit OK, and we're going to choose arc D or D size and hit OK, and there it is. It's put in the title block, where you can also make sure you double click here and put in all the pertinent information, make it up, make the firm, make whatever building it is, put all that information in. But of course the date should be the date, and the scale should be the scale. Next thing we want to do here is then create our viewport. Again, you're going to have to create a layer for viewport, and you're going to then create the viewport. Again, we can use layout, you can use rectangular, choose rectangular. We're going to draw it in. All right, here it is. activate the viewport, I turn off my grid. And then we've got to set the scale for this like we did before. We're going to click on the viewport, type in MO for properties, and we're going to set both of these to a proper scale. Something like this site is going to be probably 1 to 20, and we want to do that both for the ano and the standard, and that actually looks like it's centered properly. So I'm going to go ahead and lock it from here, say yes. And so now I've got my site, and you want to make sure your site is entirely inside there. You'll notice my north arrow seems to be off, so we're going to go back in there and we're going to move this north arrow. And this north arrow is exceedingly large. I want it to be much smaller, so we're going to scale this down. And I'll do let's try 0.25. And that looks like a much better arrow. And we're going to move it. And generally we like it in the upper left. Okay, turn off my ano, and I'm going to drop it like right here, and I'm going to make sure it appears, and it does. It's a perfect spot there. The last thing I'm going to show you is also how to put in the bar scale. Okay, we're going to go back to our design center, and we're going to find bar scale here. It's the same one, annotation empirical under dynamic blocks. We're going to grip it here. We're going to drag it in, and we're going to drop it. Okay. Generally, we like to have our bar scale. I'm going to move it. I'm going to move it over to the bottom right. Again, putting it in its right layer. And we're going to go ahead and choose the proper scale. And we're going to choose 1 inch equals 20. And if you measure here, DI, it's in paper, so it's 20. It's going to be measuring 1. That's exactly what it should do. But it also, if we measure here, that is 1, which is 20. So there we go. And again, don't worry about it being slightly off. You're more interested in making sure it's by increments of 9, and also that we're putting in nice even feet direction. And I probably could have gotten this better if I actually started it here and then drew here in this direction. To be honest, probably would have been better on that. All right, so this last thing I want to show you, go ahead and get going on your project. Make sure you read over the project instructions, and good luck.